2 days ago, on November 8th, a group of climate change activists decided to block a major roadway in Panama in order to protest against a Canadian mining contract in their area. However, a man named Kenneth Darlington, a U.S. attorney who's 77 years old, decided to step out of his vehicle, walk up to the protesters, argue with them for several minutes, and then proceed to shoot two of the protesters, ultimately killing them. Now, first, I'm going to talk about what happened in greater detail, and then later I'm going to talk about 3 lessons we can draw from this incident. All that to come and more from the Isaiah Maynard Show. Now, before I get into talking about the events that happened on November 8th, I just wanted to say welcome back to the show and say that this video is going to be shorter than my other episodes because I figured it's probably a better idea for me to start investing more time into shorter videos than less time into longer videos that ultimately not many people are going to watch anyways. So that's why this video is going to be shorter and only have one topic that I'm talking about. Now, moving on to the topic of today, as you heard in the introduction, there was a man named Kenneth Darlington who decided to open fire on climate protesters in Canada. Reading from the New York Post, what they say here is that a few men at the scene then approached him and tried to calm him down. When the argument began, captured on cameras, one of the demonstrators could be heard in the footage saying, quote, "Why don't you shoot?" While others shouted, "Are you going to kill someone?" Kenneth replied, "Do you want to be the first?" before suddenly opening fire, according to the footage in court testimony, which I'll provide some footage here in a minute. Darlington could then be seen opening fire again, hitting another man in a black t-shirt, who fell over, and after first holding his shoulder and grimacing in pain. The victims were Ivan Rodriguez and Abdiel Diaz. So that's essentially the climax of what happened. There was a group of climate protesters blocking the road with large logs and rocks and sticks and things like that. And as you'll see in the footage I'm going to show here in a moment, it goes on for miles and miles. The roadblock, and this roadway isn't just some like dirt road or anything like that. It's a major highway from everything I've seen online. It seems everyone's agreement that this is a major highway that they were blocking here. And all this was for climate activism. It was going against a Canadian mining contract that was just passed in the area. So they were infuriated about that. Also, there was a famous photo going around online of Kenneth Darlington. And I'm just going to show the photo and right over here. So it should be like popping up right over here. So this is the photo right now. That's circling online, along with some other ones, but this is pretty much the main one that's getting memes made about it online and having captions like F around and find out, things like that. But before I go into drawing out the main points, the main lessons we can take away from this incident, I'm going to first show the video. I'm not going to show the full clip, obviously, but I'm going to show some of the video of what happened. So I'm going to play that now.
Delante del policía.
All right, so now that you have a better grasp of the situation, what happened, and you've seen the video for yourself, as well as the famous picture that's circulating online, I just want to say there's 3 points, 3 lessons that we can really draw out from this. But before I get into that, I just want to say first, what Kenneth Darlington was absolutely wrong, and I condemn it completely. I do not support his actions at all, and I think it actually reflects badly on many gun owners, many people who are pro 2A in the United States, even though this did occur in in Panama, rather. He did have dual citizenship, and he was a U.S. attorney as well, and there's a lot of news coverage or media coverage surrounding this in the United States. So the first thing I want to highlight, or at least bring attention to, is just the outrageous entitlement that many activists have whenever they have these protests. I mean, notoriously climate activists, BLM activists, transgender activists, or whatever protesters are protesting what's going on, whatever they're upset about, they feel entitled enough to block major highways and roadways as if that's even going to help their cause or going to do anything to achieve the goal that they're trying to achieve. It just doesn't make sense to me. Imagine something passes in your area that you don't agree with, and your immediate reaction is to go make traffic a problem for people in your community. It doesn't make sense to me. You're hurting other people. You're inhibiting business because there was, as you saw in the video, there were 18-wheelers. There were big trucks out there. They're obviously delivering supplies. Imagine there's an ambulance trying to get by that's in a life or death emergency, and you're blocking the roadway for so-called climate activism. It's just ridiculous. So obviously the climate activists shouldn't have been there in the first place. The entitlement that many of these activists have globally here in the United States and all around the world to block major roadways, to make what they view as a major problem everyone else's problem is just ridiculous. Furthermore, more on this point, would anyone outside of Panama even heard about their protest if it wasn't for what Kenneth Darlington did? I mean, they're trying to bring attention to a supposed global problem, but by blocking the roadway, all they're doing is causing more problems, more issues within their community. They're not even bringing attention to their cause, because most of the time they get ignored anyways, unless something terrible like this happens, or they destroy some priceless work of art, or some other terrible thing that shouldn't have happened because they shouldn't have been there in the first place. So lastly, on this first point, I just want to also point out that if they keep doing things like this, if they keep pissing people off, they're going to have more situations where this happens. And that's not to justify what Kenneth Darlington did. Like I said, I completely condemn it. However, if you do things like this, if you piss off hundreds of people, all these cars lined up, you don't know anything about them, you don't know what's going on in their life, you don't know how they're going to react to these situations, what do you expect to happen? All it takes is one or two people to get upset enough to cause harm like this. And sure, people who are maybe more moderate or maybe on the left are going to say, oh, that sounds like victim blaming me. You're blaming them for what happened. Well, yeah, of course I am, because they played a major role in it. They shouldn't have been there in the first place. And secondly, it's not victim blaming. It's common sense. It's like walking out in the middle of the street or middle of a sketchy area at like 3 a.m., with like nice clothes on and a brand new bag. That's like there's certain actions, there's certain things that you can do that are risky and potentially dangerous and could cause you harm and potentially end up making you a victim, that you don't do. And if we stop acknowledging that, then people are going to continue to do risky stuff like this, and more events like this are going to happen. It's just, like I said, it's just common sense. So the first point I want to make was on that, how entitled these activists are and how stupid they're behaving and by doing this. It's just completely irrational, makes no sense. But I guess that's what else do you expect from them? Moving on to the second point, road rage is a real issue, and it's dangerous to piss off drivers because of how they may react. So this kind of connects to what I was saying at the last point. Road rage is something that happens all the time. I'm sure if you're a driver, if you've been in terrible traffic, you've had to deal with this. It's something that absolutely people do within their own cars. I mean, if you get cut off in the middle of the road and you're going like 70 miles an hour, yeah, you're already on edge. You're already in a high alertness state of mind, and then someone cuts in front of you. You step on the brakes. That's going to cause you to go from the high alertness, that already high stress state of mind to even higher. And now how you react could be irrational, could be outrageous. You start yelling, you start flicking people off, and you don't know how they're going to react. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. You don't know what that person who cuts you off, why they're cutting you off, why they're going so fast. It could be because they're angry about something that just happened 5 minutes ago. It could be because they just lost their job. It could be from anything. They could be mentally unstable, and they're just crazy drivers in general. And then you just happen to be the target of their next road rage incident because you just happen to react to what they were doing. So it's something that we have to remember when we look at the situations, that people react differently to different situations. So if you're a climate activist group and you want to protest something, maybe the best idea isn't to go into the middle of the road where people are already on high alert, people are already stressed out, people are already trying to get from work to home or home to work or whatever was going on during that time, or deliver supplies. I mean, you're putting a lot of people in a very difficult situation. One of them, all it takes is one of them to lose their cool, and for something like this to happen. So just reiterating that final point I made previously, just I guess how this applies to the listener right now, just don't flick off the guy who cut you off. Practice some self-control, some emotional stability, and this is something I can work on too. I admit I do have a little bit of road rage. I yell in my car. I have a low tolerance for when people act stupid on the road, and that's something that I know I need to work on. But I think that seeing stuff like this, rather than glorifying it, what we should do is view it as a reminder of how crazy people can be and how people react differently to different situations. And lastly, my third point, the third thing we can draw from this, or the third thing I really want to say about this, is Kenneth Darlington is not a hero. He is not someone we need to view as a hero. He's not someone we need to idolize. He's not someone who we need to put as a figure, a model, some type of person we need to admire. I saw T-shirts being made with him on it, with the picture I showed earlier, with like F around and find out captions on them. I saw memes being made about him. I saw people online idolizing him, saying like, oh, this guy is a badass and things like that. It's just ridiculous. Let's be completely clear about this. He killed 2 people because he lost his temper. What he did was not the correct way to handle the situation at all. Of course, the climate activists shouldn't have been there. Of course, the protesters were in the wrong too. Multiple things can be true at once. How the climate activists were behaving was wrong, and how Kenneth Darlington reacted was absolutely wrong as well. So, those 2 men who lost their lives, that is a tragedy. That is not a good thing. We shouldn't be idolizing Kenneth Darlington for what he did. I know he might echo or reflect a lot of dark thoughts that some of us may have when we're driving on the road. Personally, I never have thought about harming someone in that way, but simply because they're blocking the road. But I haven't been in that situation. I just know that sometimes when we get frustrated, we can have these dark, sinful, emotional thoughts, and that's not something we need to glorify. That's not something we need to condone. We need to completely condemn it because it's wrong, and there's better ways to handle the situations. So with that being said, ultimately, those are the 3 messages I want to get across. If you're involved in any activism, or if you see activism taking place, don't encourage being in the middle of the road. I mean, that's ridiculous. No one has a right to block the roadway. No one has a right to be in the middle of the road. If you get in the middle of the road and get hit by a car, that's your fault. Roads are made for cars, they're not made for people. That's just how it works. Secondly, road rage is a real issue and it's dangerous, so keep that in mind when you're driving. Keep that in mind whenever you're near a roadway and that situation applies. And thirdly, Kenneth Darlington is not a hero. Let's not idolize him. Let's not glorify this type of action. It makes pro-2A people like me look bad. It makes pro-Second Amendment representatives look bad, because they think that pro-2A people are just all for killing people that they disagree with, or that are causing inconveniences to them. So those 3 lessons are what I'm trying to take away from this situation. And that's pretty much it for the show. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless.